There is a grain so powerful that an empire tried to erase it from the face of the earth. Not because it was dangerous, because it fed people too well. The Aztec Empire dedicated 200,000 acres to it, more than any crop except corn. When the conquistadors arrived in 1521, they outlawed it. Fields were torched, seeds were destroyed. Growing it became a crime punishable by death. It survived anyway, hidden in remote mountain valleys, passed down in secret through generations of indigenous farmers who refused to let it disappear. And when American researchers rediscovered it in the 1970s, they found something that changed everything they thought they knew about plant nutrition. According to the FAO, amaranth grain as a source of protein is superior in content and quality to traditional cereals. They banned the most nutritious grain on Earth. It's growing in your backyard right now.
Here is what happened, and it is one of the most deliberate suppressions of a food crop in recorded history. Amaranth, called huauhtli in the Aztec language outlawed, was a staple food, a tribute crop, and a sacred grain. The Aztec Empire accepted it as tribute from vassal states. Warriors consumed it before battle. It was used in rituals. Amaranth grain and honey were sculpted into statues of gods, carried through the streets, and distributed for eating. When Hernán Cortés conquered the Aztec Empire in 1521, the Spanish colonial authorities made a decision. They banned amaranth cultivation outright. Growing it could result in having your hands cut off. Fields were burned. The crop was systematically suppressed in a way that maize and beans never were, precisely because of its sacred significance. The goal was not agricultural. The goal was cultural erasure. Destroy the food, destroy the ritual, destroy the civilization that depended on both. Amaranth went into hiding. Aztec warriors no longer had their strength-supporting superfood, and the culture lost a huge part of itself almost overnight. For nearly 400 years, it survived only in remote communities, small pockets of farmers in the Mexican highlands and Andes who kept the seeds alive when every official force was working to eliminate them. It was only in the 1970s that researchers rediscovered amaranth in the United States, motivated by a renewed interest in overlooked and resilient crops that could expand the global food base. What they found when they analyzed it was not what they expected.
You already know what it looks like. You've seen it. That tall plant with the dramatic red and gold plumes that people grow as an ornamental in their gardens, the one that looks like it should be on a coat of arms or the cover of a seed catalog. That is amaranth. Not a different variety, not a cultivated relative. The same plant, the same seed. Growing in American flower gardens as decoration, while people pay $12 a pound for it at the health food store in the grain aisle 3 aisles over. Amaranth has also grown as a weed in American fields since the colonial period. Its genetic base has been largely maintained precisely because the plant refused to disappear. The people who survived for 8,000 years eating this grain knew something that the modern food system has been very slow to acknowledge. It feeds people better than almost anything else that grows from the ground. Here are the numbers. Amaranth contains roughly 13 to 14% protein by weight, comparable to quinoa and higher than most true cereal grains. It contains roughly twice the lysine of wheat and 3 times that of maize. Lysine is the amino acid most commonly deficient in cereal grains, the one that plays critical roles in calcium absorption, collagen production, and immune function. It contains more calcium than virtually any other grain, roughly 116 milligrams per cooked cup. It contains 30% more protein density than actual cereals like wheat, oats, rye, and rice. And it is a complete protein, containing all 9 essential amino acids at a time when most plant foods provide only some of them. The Aztec Empire fed millions of people on this grain for centuries. They called it supernatural. The science says they were not wrong. Let me give you the full picture. Like quinoa, amaranth is a complete protein containing all 9 essential amino acids. Where amaranth stands out is in its lysine content, the amino acid most commonly deficient in cereal grains. This matters more than most people realize. Lysine deficiency is one of the most common protein deficiencies worldwide, even in people who think they're eating enough protein. It affects collagen synthesis, which means bone strength, skin integrity, and wound healing. It affects calcium absorption, which means bone density, a particular concern for women over 50, and it affects immune function at a fundamental level. Wheat has almost none. Rice has almost none. Corn has almost none. Amaranth has more lysine per gram than beef. Amaranth is also naturally gluten-free, making it viable for people with gluten intolerance or celiac disease, a population that has historically struggled to find high-protein grain alternatives. Amaranth is also high in fiber and iron, while low in saturated fats. It is high in folic acid, a B vitamin essential during pregnancy, a deficiency in which can cause neurological disorders. It is also rich in omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, vitamin E, and contains significant levels of iron, calcium, and magnesium, with high bioavailability. And it grows in conditions that would kill most other food crops. Amaranth thrives in both hilly terrains and open plains, tolerates droughts, high salinity soils, and frost. Irrigation is seldom needed, unless growing in the most moisture-deficient areas. The most nutritious commonly available grain on Earth also happens to be one of the most drought-resistant. The conquistadors tried very hard to erase it. It refused.
Here is the practical part, because knowing about a grain and knowing what to do with it are different things. Amaranth has 3 primary forms that every American kitchen can use. Whole grain, cooked like rice or oatmeal. Bring 2 cups of water to a boil per half cup of dry amaranth. Add the grain, reduce heat, simmer uncovered for about 20 minutes until the water is absorbed. The texture is similar to a creamy porridge, slightly sticky with a mild nutty flavor that has been prepared to malt. It can be served sweet with honey, cinnamon, and fruit, or savory as a side grain in the same role as rice or quinoa. It absorbs flavor from whatever it's cooked with. Popped, like popcorn, but smaller and faster. A dry pan over high heat. Add a tablespoon of amaranth seeds at a time. Shake the pan. In under a minute, the seeds pop into tiny white spheres. The result is what the Aztecs ate. They called it swali and combined it with honey to make a confection called alegria, which translates directly as joy. Popped amaranth can be added to yogurt, salads, granola, or eaten directly as a snack. It is one of the highest protein snack foods available from a single ingredient. Flour, substituted for up to 25% of wheat flour in any baking recipe. Amaranth flour has a slightly earthier flavor than wheat and behaves differently in baking, best used in combination rather than as a full replacement. Pancakes, muffins, bread, all of them benefit from the protein and nutrient density without significant change to texture. 1 grain, 3 forms, all of them usable in a standard American kitchen this week.
Here is what makes this different from every other grain in this series. You can grow it yourself. In most of the continental United States, in poor soil, without irrigation. Amaranth is highly adaptable. It thrives in conditions where most other food crops fail. It is heat-tolerant, drought-resistant, and produces a significant yield on minimal inputs. A single amaranth plant at maturity stands 4 to 8 feet tall and produces 1 seed head, the plume, that contains between 40,000 and 60,000 seeds. Let that sit for a moment. 1 plant, up to 60,000 seeds. Each of those seeds is food. To grow, plant after last frost and full sun. Any soil type. Thin to 18 inches apart. Water until established. After that, the plant manages itself. Harvest the seed heads when they begin to dry on the plant. Hang them upside down over a sheet or tarp and allow the seeds to fall. The yield from 4 to 6 plants, which fits in a small garden bed, produces enough amaranth grain to supplement a family's diet meaningfully through a growing season. The yield of grain amaranth is comparable to that of rice or maize. The same farmers who grew it in secret for 400 years in remote valleys without modern agricultural inputs were producing enough to eat. You have better conditions than they did. Here is how to begin this week. Taste it first. Most grocery stores carry amaranth grain in the health food aisle or bulk section, often under $4 a pound. Buy a small bag. Cook half a cup using the method I just described. Add honey and cinnamon. Eat it for breakfast tomorrow morning. That is the fastest way to understand why the Aztec Empire dedicated 200,000 acres to this grain. Next, order seeds. A $3 seed packet contains enough amaranth seed to plant a significant garden bed. Open pollinated varieties,
Hopi red dye, golden giant, or plainly labeled grain amaranth can be saved and replanted indefinitely. One purchase: seeds that replant themselves for as long as you garden. If you want to pop it this week, a dry pan over medium-high heat. 1 tablespoon of dry amaranth grain. Shake constantly. 30 to 45 seconds. Done. You just made the same thing that sustained a civilization for 8,000 years. From a $4 bag.
2 things I know you're wondering. First, if amaranth is this good, why isn't everyone eating it? Some researchers believe it is slower to gain mainstream adoption because of its smaller, creamier texture compared to quinoa. Humans have always tended to select lighter-colored grains because it makes it easier to spot impurities. In other words, quinoa looks like rice. Amaranth looks different. That's the primary barrier. Not nutrition, not taste, not availability. Familiarity. Second, is it difficult to cook? No. The porridge method is as simple as oatmeal. Popping takes under a minute. The flour substitution requires no change to your existing recipes. The grain that sustained the Aztec Empire did not require professional culinary training to prepare. It required a fire and a pot. You already have both. The thing about amaranth that stays with me is the stubbornness of it. Amaranth, the name comes from a Greek word meaning the never fading or one that does not wither. The plant is true to its name. They burned the fields. They destroyed the seeds. They made growing it a capital offense. And it survived. In the hands of farmers who carried seeds in their clothing, in remote valleys that the authorities couldn't reach, in the stubborn biological persistence of a plant that when left to itself, grows as a weed, refusing to disappear from American fields even when no one planted it. In Mexico, alegría, the confection of popped amaranth bound with honey, is still sold by street vendors throughout the country, a living descendant of the ancient swali, unchanged in 500 years. The Aztec farmers who hid these seeds in mountain valleys did not know that American nutritionists would find them in the 1970s. They did not know that the FDA would confirm what they already understood about the protein content. They did not know that the WHO would list amaranth as one of the most promising food crops for global food security in the 21st century. They just knew that this grain fed their people. And they refused to let the people who wanted to erase their civilization take the one thing that made everything else possible. The seeds survived, the knowledge survived, and the grain that an empire tried to erase is growing in American gardens right now, mostly as a decorative flower, while people drive past it to the store to buy protein supplements made from soybeans. You know what it is now. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.